Hello and welcome to Fixing the Bug powered by Code Quotient, a podcast where we talk about coding and everything related to it, be it market trends, education policies, and teaching methods, entrepreneurship, or jobs. In today's episode, we have with us Mr. Tarun Aggarwal, whose work life has revolved wholesomely around the world of IT, education related to it and otherwise, and the job market here in India and abroad. So that means this conversation is going to be extremely infotaining, answering all your questions regarding the education abroad and the work life. So let's begin with it. Hello, Tarun sir. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for giving us your time. How have you been?
Hi Shivangi, nice meeting you and thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
The pleasure is all ours. So, you are currently the Chief Business Officer at CollegeDekho, and for the listeners, could you shed some light on what all responsibilities you shoulder in this role, and what are your focus areas at CollegeDekho?
At CollegeDekho, being still a youngish company, we play multiple roles and wear multiple hats. But primarily, I am currently driving the study abroad business vertical for the company.
So, in this, you help students get their abroad education. You guide them through how they can pursue it.
Yes. So let me tell you a bit about CollegeDekho. So CollegeDekho is India's largest higher education platform, where we help students with admissions to colleges within the country and outside the country. As well as we have a coaching business vertical as well, where we help students become coders like what Code Quotient is doing, as well as making them job ready and skilling them for facing the corporate world. Yeah. So within the study abroad vertical, we help students with all aspects of getting or securing an admission in a college outside of India.
So, like you said, that you wear multiple hats. So, in this multiple hat wearing session, which hat is your favorite? What part of your role is your favorite?
So this is an interesting question. So see, one of the things which I enjoy doing is working on the product. Yeah, because that essentially is core to any business or a service. I always say that if the product or the service is right, then you have a continuous business. Because yes, the first sale can be done by the salesperson, but the repeat sale is always done by the product or the service delivery.
Right. So this is about today, but talking about your journey, I see it has been in multiple colors. You have such rich experience in every sector that our podcast focuses on. It's IT industry, business related to it, 9 to 5 jobs, and then education. All these roles that you've been in, what was your motive when you began the journey?
So honestly, Shivangi, it's again interesting question, and unfortunately, the answer to that is very very boring. Yeah. So if I go back 25 years when I was in final year of my engineering,
Right.
yeah. So just to put a timeline to it, that was around 1997, and the Indian telecom industry had just been privatized. And I am a telecom engineer, a communications engineer by training. And at that time, my passion was to work on a switch, which is a telecom switch. And this was also the time when the IT revolution was starting in the country. Yeah. And around that time, the large IT companies which we know of today, there used to be a joke in campus that trespassers will be hired.
Oh.
Yeah. So during our times, I still remember it was more of a, let's say, companies will come and really hire engineers from my college in huge numbers. But at that time, being a telecommunication engineer, as I said, my passion was to sit on a switch. So interestingly, I had 2 job offers during my final year, and I chose to work with a telecom company. So that's how it all started. And then there was a walk-in with Philips in Delhi, and I kind of took an overnight bus from Chandigarh. That's where I was working at that time. Then I got selected with Philips and so on and so forth. So if you ask me how this all started, when I was in the engineering college, the passion or the agenda or the objective was to work in the telecom sector. And after that, as with everybody else of my generation, we all got sucked into the IT industry.
Hmm.
And there also I tried working very close to the hardware. So in Philips, I was with the consumer electronic division of the company. So this was a subsidiary of Philips Holland, and we used to make software for Philips devices. Yeah, so I was in the DVD division at that time, and DVDs were a relatively new technology in 1998.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I was very close to the hardware, and I wrote a couple of device drivers and working more on the system software side of things. I still remember we used to have a DVD player open with the motherboard and everything exposed. A couple of wires connecting that motherboard with the PC that we were working on. We used to write some code, flash it on the player, then test it, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And the fun part of this job was that we used to get to watch a lot of movies. Yeah. So and DVDs were new at that time. So the quality and the resolution we used to get was amazing. And as part of testing the software, we used to watch movies.
Hmm.
So that was fun. Those were fun days.
But this sounds very nostalgic. It has only been 2 decades. 20 years is not a big span of time, but so many things have changed. Like DVD does not exist anymore. It's all Netflix and chill.
Yes, yes. The DVDs don't exist anymore. And interestingly, the last project I worked with the company was the DVD recorder.
Hmm.
Now that was a flagship product because nobody had come up with a DVD recorder before that.
Right.
So all companies like Philips and the competitors were building on the recorder product. And it was a very interesting project because they were trying to marry three different systems. So they took the recording software from the VCR product,
Hmm.
the playback from the DVD product, and then there was a third set of module which was kind of tying all this together to make a single stack of software which would run the DVD recorder product.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's 20 years back. Technology moves very fast, but those were fun days.
Right. But somehow you have made a drastic switch from being on the software and the hardware side of the industry to now helping students get the right education, get the right college, get the right career. How did that transformation happen?
So that transformation didn't happen overnight, Shivangi.
Hmm.
There was a whole, let's say, 15 years of journey before I picked up this role. I always had let's say, bias towards working in areas which had some kind of an impact.
Okay.
After IT services, I was part of the founding team for Job Board.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I spent a good part of my life, almost, I think so, a decade or 11 years on the online recruitment industry. And there also, if you see, we were trying to help people find jobs.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there's always a value to service we were delivering to both the companies and job seekers. Then after that, I had a smallish stint with a startup, which was in a very interesting space, which was preventive healthcare and well-being.
Hmm.
And after that, I kind of moved to CollegeDekho around 3 years back. So if you see, there was always, I think so, a subconscious bias of working in areas which make a difference to somebody's life.
Hmm. So now talking about the education sector that you're working upon,
Yeah.
here in India, we have a separate system of education, and abroad it's completely different. There are many things that we can draw parallels to or things that we can draw differences with. But what do you think are the major aspects we are lagging in? And why do students choose or should choose a higher degree abroad?
See, first of all, I will not say that we are lagging in things. I am very proud of the fact that I am an output of the Indian education system. I have always been an advocate of the Indian education system.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yes, like any system or any education ecosystem in any country, there are good things and things which need improvement.
Right.
Yeah. For example, if you go and talk to educationists in the US,
Hmm.
or people who are, let's say, policy making or worrying about the education sector, they also have a lot of things they want to improve in the US education system.
Right.
Yeah, though it's still supposed to be a very good education system, but what I'm trying to say is that I will not call that the Indian education system is lagging. Indian education system has its own, let's say, nuances, and again, look at the volume that the country is catering to.
Hmm. Right.
As per some last numbers, almost 40 million students are going through a higher education at any given point of time in the country. And the government wants to double this number. So given that, I think we are not doing so bad. Yeah, things can definitely be improved. The latest NEP, the education policy the government has come up with, it's
Right.
quite exciting. It's trying to address many things, and it's kind of a bit futuristic as well. So at a policy level, I think we are there. And as with everything else, it all boils down to how well we execute it.
Hmm. So I was not trying to say that India has poor education policy. I was just trying to come to this conjunction only कि India has its education system
Hmm.
and abroad has its system.
Hmm.
But where do you think India can improve, and why do you think students opt for the education abroad where they have good structure and affordable education here? And if they do choose abroad, why should they do so?
Okay, okay, sure, sure. See, these questions, there are various ways to answer this, and let me try to share some of my personal views regarding this. Okay,
Hmm.
the increase in numbers of students going outside of India is a factor of competition. In India, the competition for a good quality education is very high.
It is.
And as let's say our population numbers are growing, and of course educational institutes have grown, but the quality education institutes or the name are still the same. And see, an education system has to build a legacy before it really becomes quality, and that legacy gets built over 10, 15, 20 years, to say that at the minimum. So I remember ISB, a premier MBA school in the country, was just launched around the time I did my MBA.
Hmm.
At that time, it was the first or second batch of the campus, and now it's one of the premier institutes in the country. Yeah, so it takes time for education institutes to build a legacy.
Hmm.
Yeah, so what happens is that because the sheer competition, the toughness of securing a quality education, more and more students are looking to study abroad. The second factor which is happening is that as our demographics are improving and as the disposable incomes in the country are increasing, along with the fact that India is a high inflation economy, the education abroad and education in India, the cost difference is reducing.
Hmm.
So these two factors together, I think, are the driving forces behind the increasing number of students looking to study abroad.
But if I want to study abroad, or I am planning to, I have not made my decision. I am looking for colleges here in India and I'm looking for colleges abroad. What factors should I consider to finally reach to the decision whether I should take the leap and go to another country or just stay here and find a good institute?
See, the answer to that is quite simple, if you ask me, and it's again a very kind of mundane answer. Is that one has to see if one can afford international education.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yes, I said that the cost difference is reducing, but it's still a costly affair to study abroad. So the first important factor which has to be kind of considered is that can I afford that education?
Hmm.
Yeah, and yes, education loans are available, but again one has to repay those loans over time, and given the financial condition of the family and the person, one has to make a decision regarding this. The second factor which one should look at while studying abroad is that, see, again, study abroad has two broad motivators. A large motivator for students to go abroad is ultimately to settle outside of India.
Hmm.
A smaller number of students really go for, let's say, acquiring a quality education with an open mind of whether they will come back to India or stay there or maybe go to a third country. Now, this also has to be very clear in the person's mind that what is the broad objective of studying abroad, and basis that the students can make their decisions, because that impacts the choice of the country.
Hmm.
Yeah, because if it is, let's say, with an intention of living abroad, then the laws of that country towards, let's say, residency or citizenship come into factor. But if it is more towards acquiring a good education, then you look at different factors.
But like you said, कि loan अगर है, so we have to repay that. For this, I have come across many people who say कि if you get an education abroad, you would earn enough that you would pay twice the loan amount and it would not bother you. So it says return of investment is higher in abroad. So what do you think? Does that really happen? Can a person take loan of up to 20 lakhs, go abroad, and then be okay with it and come back and pay the money?
See, okay, the last part of your question was the trick part of it. If you are, let's say, taking a 20 lakh loan and going abroad and studying abroad,
Hmm.
then, as they say, the ROI aspect or the ability to pay back the loan happens more if you are earning in that country. If you come back, then, okay, first of all, the short answer is that yes, if you are securing a quality education, the loan can be paid back easily, whether you are studying in India or outside of India.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is not a problem. But yes, the common perception that if you take a loan and go abroad to study, you can repay the loan with, let's say, relative ease is true if you are continuing to work in that country.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the ability to work in the country depends upon the laws of that country at that time, because most countries offer a post-study work visa for let's say anything from 6 months to 3 years. After that, your work visa or your ability to continue work in that country depends upon the law of the country, the visa, etc. So what I'm trying to say is that the loan can be repaid. That's not a problem.
Hmm.
Yeah, there are nuances in each option that you choose for. And the second thing, what I was saying, that you have to be able to afford the education, is that, see, even if you take a loan,
Hmm.
yeah, and you can pay it back, but sometimes what happens is that we put ourselves into, or ourselves or the family into, a stress situation, because you will also have to spend apart from the loan amount.
Hmm. Right.
So the point I'm trying to highlight here is that one should look at international education basis the financial capacity without really creating a stress in the household.
Right.
That is the important point.
So, if I do not secure a job abroad,
Mhm.
it is considered that if I have a degree of a foreign university,
Mhm.
I would get a better job here in India and like better value compared to other candidates. Is that also true?
Very interesting question, Shivangi. And again, my view on that is that, see, it depends upon the degree and the education you have got. First of all, let's largely group the colleges into two categories. Let's say one is which are branded colleges, or let's say known colleges, and the other is, let's say, the rest of the colleges which are not so well known, at least in India. Now, if you are in the first category of colleges where, let's say, an employer has heard of the name of the college
Hmm.
or the course that you have done, yes, of course, it is easier to get a job back in India. But if it is, let's say, a college which the employer has not heard of,
Hmm.
then you are kind of at par with any other candidate. And the second part also is the faculty that you have studied. So, for example, if it's a technical education, computer science or an engineering kind of a STEM kind of an
Hmm.
education, those skills are fungible. But let's say if you do law, or if you do, let's say, marketing, these subjects have a local element to it. For example, if you study law in the UK,
Hmm.
the law you will be studying will be UK law. And if you come back to India, you will have to again brush up your Indian law aspects. Those are local subjects. Whereas, let's say, STEM subjects, they are fungible. If you know coding or if you are an engineer, you can operate anywhere in the world, because an engineer is an engineer. The laws of physics or mathematics remain the same wherever you are.
Right.
So ability to find a job or employability back in the home country largely is a function of two
Hmm.
factors: the strength of the brand where you are studying, and the faculty that you are studying. How fungible is the skill that you have learned.
Okay. So, talking about learning from abroad, what are the top degrees that you see children are opting for, or what are the top countries that students are opting for?
See, the majority of heavy lifting is done by four countries for Indian students. That is largely Canada, UK, USA, and Australia. Some European countries like Germany, France are also coming up. But if you see, the first four set is largely the 80-20 rule.
Hmm.
And the study abroad market is around 75 to 80% postgrad
Hmm.
and around 20 to 25% undergrad. So it's largely a PG market. Now, when students go for PG, most of them go for either MS in STEM courses, masters in STEM courses, or they go for MBA. At UG level, of course, the variety is slightly higher, because typically you will end up doing a PG also abroad in that
Hmm.
case. But PG is largely masters in STEM courses and MBA.
Okay. So, if I talk about the procedure of admission in any of the
Mm.
colleges, first I
Mm.
come down to the question, I have decided that okay, I want this degree. Now, how do I narrow down the option of colleges that I want?
Shivangi, now the answer for that is you have to come and sign up with College Dekho. Yeah. Uh,
Right,
and we will help you in your journey for securing the admission abroad. Yeah.
100%.
But see, the process in for education abroad is has two three components.
Mhm.
Yeah, the one component is that you will typically need to take an English language test,
Right.
because the four countries that I mentioned are, let's say, native English speaking countries.
Mhm.
So all these countries require a English proficiency test from countries like India, where English is not a native language.
Hmm.
The second parameter which is important is your marks. Not in the last exam, but slightly, let's say, in the continuum. For example, if you're a UG student, your 10th, 11th, 12th marks are important. If you're a PG student, your final year marks, third year marks, and to some extent your 12th marks are also important.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, they look at all these things.
Hmm.
Yeah. And because what they see is that what's the background or the academic background of the student. And then the next part is, depending upon the country you are going to. For example, if you are looking to US, you will need to take some aptitude test like GRE or a GMAT or a SAT, whether it's a UG or a PG.
Right.
Yeah. Or let's say some faculties will have some kind of a exam which might be required depending upon the country and the course you are choosing. Then apart from this, the very interesting aspect of an application abroad is the famous or the so-called essay or the statement of purpose.
Hmm.
Yeah. So now that's a very important and interesting aspect of securing an admission abroad, is because that is a qualitative angle to your admission. So for example, there's a very interesting statistic that if you go to top colleges of the US and there are five applicants with the same, let's say, academic marks or background, only two or max three will get admission. And that differentiator is the essay and the SOP that you have.
Hmm.
Of course, the essay and the SOP stringency becomes a bit diluted as you go to lower rung colleges, but it is still there.
And
Yeah.
SOP is a letter that we write stating why are we willing to take this course in this particular
Yes.
university.
Yes. Yes. Why are you willing? And sometimes the college also gives some prompts and cues on which it requests you to share your thoughts or write about.
Hmm.
Yeah. And see, what they are trying to do with this aspect is they are trying to understand you as an individual. See, marks is there, marks are always there. Yeah, so that gives an idea of your academic capability, your hard working, your aptitude, etc. But the qualitative aspect which gets measured in the not measured, which gets let's say assessed
Hmm.
in an essay or an SOP, is it tells the college about you, your motivation, your thought processes, a bit more about you as an individual. So these are the two or three aspects of applying abroad, in addition to, of course, the fulfilling the financial requirements.
So, talking about the financial requirements, I went through some procedures of getting an education abroad. So, in this, they ask you to fill all the details and you have to pay the fee, and then there are options of scholarship. So, once you get the admission, then you get the scholarship, right?
Yes. See, the scholarship is kind of either along with an admission offer, or you apply after that. See, because you can only apply for a scholarship once you get admission, right? Once the college selects you.
Right.
Yeah. And scholarships are various categories. So they are, let's say, one are the third party scholarships, like the prestigious ones, which have their own criteria of awarding a scholarship. And then there are scholarships which are provided by the institute or the university. Again, largely, most of them are merit based, but some of them are also means based.
Means based, as in,
Means as in the financial capability of the student.
okay. So I don't know if you came across these or not, but very recently I have been seeing many posts and stories on Instagram and Facebook on how easy it is to get scholarships, or how students who are talented should apply abroad and get the education there because it's relatively easier. What is your thought on that? Is it actually that easy?
Scholarships in general are not so easy.
Hmm.
But see, I will just share one statement here, that a scholarship application is a very personalized thing. It's always case to case.
Hmm.
Yeah, what fits one person may not fit another person, even though apparently both are similar. The generic information regarding scholarships is there in the market, but this is a very specialized and personalized aspect or topic.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not going to going to talk much about the generic aspects of getting a scholarship, because enough of that is there in the media. But I believe that for that you need to have a very personalized conversation. And of course, we as College Dekho can help you with that.
Right. So now we are switching towards the job aspect of working abroad and living abroad. You have worked in that sector. You have helped people gain job abroad. So how does that market works? Pay is the perk there, but what are the cons of working abroad in general?
See, first of all, I'd like to clear a misconception that when we look at working abroad and pay abroad, one should not translate the currency into an Indian currency,
Okay, right.
because you are also incurring expenses in in that
Exactly.
country. Yeah. So I come across statements that somebody got a job worth X lakh rupees in that country. Now that's a very irrelevant statement, because you're also spending in that currency itself.
Right.
Yeah. So the way one should look at is that net of expenses, taxes, etc. What is the saving potential? And then that saving potential can be translated into Indian rupees, because that can either be used by you in that country or sent back home for family or whatever is the situation be. It is absolutely incorrect to look at a job outside of India and then look at that figure in Indian currency.
Correct.
Cons of working abroad.
Yeah.
See, the cons of working abroad go a bit into a philosophical domain. First of all, you are not living in your home country. It's always a different experience of living in your native country, where a citizen, as compared to, let's say, working somewhere else.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. Second, depending upon the country and the language and the culture, the openness can be different. See, for example, some countries are more open to, let's say, different cultures mixing in their population or ecosystem,
Hmm.
whereas some countries and cultures are a bit more, let's say, closed. So depending upon on the region or the country that you are kind of looking to work in, you will get different experiences.
Hmm.
So that's another aspect one should be a bit aware of. So the other con which was there is, which is now largely negated by technology, is the so-called separation or the distance aspect. So for example, when I was young, if you had, let's say, gone to US, the time difference was practically 12 hours.
Hmm.
So you used to be cut off from family in general, because the only time you can talk is either early morning or late evenings, and communication costs were costly at that time.
Hmm.
But with internet nowadays and video calling, chatting, I think that barrier is largely not there. But still, you definitely can feel a sense of separation from your family and friends.
Right. Because I do have my relatives living abroad, and though the time difference is there and we have technology to communicate, it is rarely that we get to talk.
Yeah,
When we are awake, they are asleep. When they are awake,
yeah,
we are asleep.
yeah, exactly.
So, apart from this, in
Yeah.
case you were living abroad away from your family, how would you deal with it?
See, first of all, when somebody picks up a role like this, one is prepared. One has to be mentally prepared for this.
Hmm.
Yeah. And after that, again, I said, technology is a very big helper nowadays. You can remain in touch with your friends and family if you're feeling homesick or you want to be connected. And the third part is, see, again, if you've chosen to live and work in a different country, yeah, either permanently or for, let's say, a few years, then I think the best way is to kind of start integrating, start living that life. As they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do,
Right.
right? So you cannot kind of keep on craving your home cooked Indian food and live in, for example, in Central Europe.
Right.
So you have to start intermingling and start adopting the local cultures,
Right.
because you have chosen. See, you have chosen to go and work in that country, so you have to be open to being adaptive.
Right. We talked about going abroad and living there, the cons of living there, the perks of living there. But it comes down to the fact that how can India retain the experts? There are many people who have had great education in India but are working abroad because they have better opportunities there. How can we switch the sides? How can India develop its market in a manner that the experts are here?
See, I think that's already happening to a large extent. So if you see the whole startup ecosystem, now that ecosystem is giving a huge amount of, let's say, impetus and energy to working in India, and also becoming an entrepreneur and doing your own thing. That culture is picking up. Young kids nowadays are very open to starting things on their own, on taking the risk, and the societal acceptability is also improving.
Right.
So this is already happening in many ways. I think the difference largely boils down to the fact of a developing versus a developed nation.
Do you think COVID has changed the dynamics to some extent?
See, COVID has changed dynamics to some extent in the job market. So one big change which has happened is that people have learned, experienced, and some to some extent accepted that remote working can happen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. See, before COVID, remote working, work from home, all these were concepts
Hmm.
which had been tried ad hoc, meaning some companies were trying it, some not. But generally, these terms were there, but nobody had really experienced them at a large scale.
Right.
What COVID did was it forced the whole world to do that, and not for a short period, at least for 1.5 years, yeah, on and off. So what has happened is that almost everybody has experienced these terms:
Hmm.
remote working, work from home. And as part of this experience, we have realized the good and the bad things about this.
Hmm.
But I think that the net output is that yes, there is a shift in the work culture going forward. For example, in tech jobs,
Hmm.
or let's say individual roles which do not require a customer or a people interaction, they are going to happen remotely to a higher extent than earlier. IT folks are now increasingly saying that yes, we can work remotely, and companies are also becoming a bit more open to this concept.
Right.
We just have to, I think, wait for a couple of more years to see how it plays out. But yes, the world will be different from pre-COVID to post-COVID.
Okay. I think we have covered most of the aspects we've had to touch upon. Now, before we leave, do you happen to have any advice to students or job seekers who are willing to work in India, live in India, study in India, or looking for something abroad?
The advice is same whether you work in India, work outside of India, IT sector, non-IT sector.
Hmm.
As a young graduate or a recently passed out professional, I think the first few years of your life are very important. One should focus on skill building
Hmm.
and not chase money. So if you build on your, if you work on building your skills, whether they are technical skills, whether they are interpersonal skills, whether they are communication skills, behavioral skills,
Hmm.
you have to work on those skills. Once you get your skills in place, then growth and success will happen. Money will happen. Everything will happen automatically. One should not be in a hurry to chase money or stuff like that,
Hmm.
because ultimately skills is why somebody hires you, and you need to build those skills.
Okay, great advice there. I do stick to it myself. And thank you so much for sharing these insights.
I think Shivangi, it was a lovely conversation, and I wish all the best to the listeners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining this conversation, Tarun sir. In case we have any questions directed from students to us for you, I would be getting back to you and talking about them more.
Sure, would love to answer any questions that students might have.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us your time. And the students who want some guidance on their career abroad can go to collegedekho.com and find their path.
Yes, they are always welcome to come to us, and we'll help them in their quest to study abroad.
All right. Thank you so much, Tarun sir. It was great talking to you.
Thanks, Shivangi. Lovely.
All right. Good evening. So that's about it. I hope you had a good, infotaining experience in this conversation just as much as I did. And if you have any query, question, suggestion for us, drop them at www.codequotient.com. That's all for today. We'll meet again soon. Till then, keep coding, keep learning, and keep fixing the bugs.
Fixing the bug.
Powered by Code Quotient.